And welcome to our Google Plus Hangout here at the Seattle Times. We have people from around the area and from Colorado joining us. We're going to be talking today about the Academic Red Shirt and the Academic Gold Shirt programs at the University of Washington, Washington State University, and the first one, which was started at the University of Colorado at Boulder. What these programs do is they give students who are promising potential engineering students that might have gone to, or often did go to high schools that were often low income and didn't have quite the resources that some other high schools in our area have. It gives these students an extra year to work on some skills, a lot of math, some chemistry as I recall, and get them to the point where they're ready to jump into the full-on engineering curriculum. And if they finish this first year with a 3.0 GPA, as I recall, then they are guaranteed a spot in the engineering programs at these schools. I'd like to start by talking to, I should introduce our panelists here. I have Tanya Ennis, who's the director of the Academic Gold Shirt program at the University of Colorado at Boulder. And Tanya, you want to wave so that the computer picks you up? There you go. Courtney Cito is a second-year engineering student at the University of Washington, and she went through the Academic Red Shirt program last year. Courtney. Dawn Wiggin Esselstrom, who is the Diversity and Access head of Diversity and Access, I guess, at the College of Engineering at the University of Washington. And Trish Mills-Zico, who's the Executive Director of the Technology Access Foundation. Is that everybody? Did I catch everybody? So I'd like to start by having you all talk a little bit about some of the challenges that low-income students face when they try to enter these engineering programs. Maybe I can get Dawn and Tanya and Trish also to talk a little bit about the types of things that students need to learn in order to be successful in the engineering program. And then when they're done, perhaps Courtney could talk a little bit more about what she didn't get to do or experience at her Vancouver high school that perhaps left her a little bit behind or made it a little more challenging to get into engineering. Would you like to start, maybe Tanya?
Sure. The students that I work with, primarily, if they're low income, usually they're first generation students.
Right.
So the being first generation, it's not only the issues they have with the College of Engineering, but just being at a university and having to learn how to navigate, like, what is a registrar, what is a bursar, you know, knowing where those offices are, what those offices, the purpose of those offices, and, you know, other resources on campus available to help them. So getting them familiar just with campus is one of the big hurdles. Another thing is, you know, our students, they're low income and college is expensive, and so, you know, having them, you know, really understand that this is an investment in their future, and in, you know, getting familiar with working with the financial aid office and being comfortable with asking questions. And a lot of our students have to work, unfortunately, and so we try to do that, you know, to alleviate some of the financial pressure by providing scholarships and trying to make sure we're finding them jobs on campus that will allow them to be a student first. And so a lot of those challenges in that first semester especially, they're not only just, you know, transitioning to college, but they're also now responsible for all of this extra stuff that they didn't know that they needed to be responsible for. Oftentimes, the students express to me that they worry about money, whereas most of the engineering students, they don't, especially here at the University of Colorado, the larger population, they don't have to worry about money. And so while our students are spending their mental capacity thinking about how am I going to pay for school, you know, I need to work, where am I getting money for these things, a lot of the other students don't have that worry. So those are challenges that, you know, we have faced with the students, and a few of the things that we're trying to do, be creative with the scholarship and the other opportunities for students to eliminate that. It's been a challenge, but we get better year to year. And I know, you know, one of the conversations I've had with a student was like they needed $4,000 which to most people isn't a big amount of money. But for those students, $4,000 is an awful lot of money. And so just the concept of money and the perspective that they have and the difference from students who may be from the middle or higher SES is a challenge.
Dawn, what can you tell me about those things that students are not getting in Washington high schools? And one thing that really kind of stayed with me when I did the story, I can't remember who I was talking to, but they just talked about how uneven math and science in Washington schools can be in terms of what students get, even if they're taking, say, calculus at one school versus calculus at another school, that there can be a tremendous difference in what they get out of it and what they learn when they've graduated.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I'm actually at the Washington STEM Summit today, and I heard some new statistics. So only 4 out of 10 students who graduate from Washington State high schools are prepared in math and science to go on to college. And only 25% of low-income students are prepared for studying math and science and STEM in college. And so it is a preparation issue that we are doing our best to overcome. And I think some of the preparation on top of the academics and having students really take the hardest math and science courses that they can in school, on top of that, they should really focus on building their study habits and forming study groups and really master the material. We have a motto here, what works is work. And we really believe that any student can accomplish their dreams. They need to work really hard. And starting that in high school and in middle school is really important. You know, looking at the day and how much time you're spending mastering the material in your courses is really important. And the STARS students like Courtney can really speak to how much preparation they need and how much work it is to succeed.
Courtney, you want to jump in there and talk a little bit about what your experience was in high school and how different college was? Oh, we're not getting her. Courtney, I think.
Hello?
There you go. We got you now.
I definitely came from those high schools where the math and science wasn't, emphasized. I did have AP physics and calculus, but I feel like it's both a combination of the teachers and the students that I was with. I feel like it was a lot easier in high school than when I came to college, definitely. Most of the students that I was with weren't very motivated to study math and science, partially because they weren't exposed to the applications that we could use math and science for after school. They weren't very motivated to go to college, so it was definitely easier because the teachers had to adjust for those students. What else can I say? Another thing was, like I said, that we had very little exposure to math and science. So I didn't even know how awesome engineering was until I got about my senior year, and I did my own research into what engineering I could do with engineering. And I don't know. Do you have any other things that I can talk about?
I think that's good. I'd like to move on to Trish and have her talk a little bit about what the Technology Access Foundation is doing and probably trying to even out the playing field in terms of what students learn in the early years before they get to college.
Yeah, so our role is on the opposite end of what we're talking about in terms of how kids get to college. Our big focus is on making sure that students are, number one, college ready. So that means aware, eligible, so academically eligible, and then ready, and that's speaking to habits of mind, study habits, financially ready to go, socially aware, all those soft skills that we tend to ignore as a society. We run a school called TAF Academy. It's a STEM school, 6th through 12th grade. And we see some of the same things that Courtney is talking about with students coming into our school. The way we combat that is we really focus on the relevance in the learning. So there's one academic bar. There's one course, set of courses. There aren't a lot of electives or anything like that. The bar is high, but there's a lot of support to meet the bar. Most of the work is done during the school day, so there's very little homework because we have kids that don't have environments that are conducive to all the studying that's required in, say, AP courses. So we try to get as much done during the school day as possible. All of that is possible for kids because we have great relationships with our kids. And one of the things that's really important that we as a society forget about when we're talking about preparing kids for STEM or education reform in general is that relationships with kids and relationships between teachers is super important. That you can get kids to pretty much do anything you ask them to do if you have a relationship with them and you give them the supports to do it. And we've seen it time and time again where kids have come in way behind. There's no fault of their own, and we spent the time to help them catch up as well as their peers help them. So when you have a family type environment in your school, a lot gets accomplished. Now that's tough to say for a larger school that has thousands of kids, but I think that there's a way to accomplish that by having smaller grade bands move together with the same set of teachers. And then you have time to foster those relationships. Teachers have time to have common planning. They have time to work with the families and parents on what their kids are doing. And then I'll wrap up with saying that we have public exhibitions of work, which is a really good motivator for students to show off what they know, to show off what they just learned for that semester in front of everybody, not just getting a grade, but really showing that you're contributing to the community with the work that you're doing.
So that idea of the relationship building being so important, it feels to me like that jumps back and relates to the academic red shirt and gold shirt programs, which are both trying to, and at WSU as well, all three are trying to make a big school feel a lot smaller, and to help the students by, this cohort that moves through. I was following some of the students, all the students, I guess it was, from Courtney's FIG down to the class that they took with Sonia Cunningham, and I would just remember walking through this enormous campus with all these other students, and this little pod of students coming down to their next class and thinking they're their own little world right here, and they're talking about things that are very specific to their lives, and I was really struck by that, although I didn't work it into the story. Would anybody like to talk a little bit more about the challenge of making a school as big as University of Washington or Colorado feel small?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. When our students come to campus, it is overwhelming because we have like 30,000 folks on campus. And so we intentionally bring them in during the summer bridge program for 2 weeks, and they live on campus. They get to know one another. We have Gosher students who are mentors to those new students coming in. We are fortunate to have the beautiful Rocky Mountains right in our backyard. So we take them up to the mountains to do a challenge course together, to develop some trust and friendship, in a fun and non-threatening way. And so those 2 weeks in Summer Bridge is really been beneficial for our students to kind of come together. Here at CU Boulder, the Gold Shirt students refer to themselves as family. I think with this demographic of student, they see that they kind of have a lot of things in common, that they're going through this struggle together and are willing to help one another. And so I think it really does start with Summer Bridge. And then we actually ask the students to stay on, no, we don't ask them, we require them to stay on campus for 2 years in a living and learning community so that they live and learn together. And yeah, they're going to most of the same courses during that first year. But we, they end up forming those study groups that we talked about earlier in this call. And so it's really up to them if they want to engage in that family, what they call the family environment. And I would like to just echo what Trish said, because I taught high school for 8 years, and I saw students that have just been getting passed through. They just get passed through. It's like a herd, and it's really sad. And it's hard work for teachers to differentiate for every single student who has a gap, but that's what teaching is. And I think we need to call people on that and say, we have the technology, we know what we need to do, and we need to just dig our heels in and make sure we're showing all these students the attention that they need so that they can learn. We tell everybody it's high touch. I meet with students all the time. I schedule students. We have a meaningful discussion about what they need. And, they talk about their struggles. We have a lot of students that have struggles that are pulled a lot back towards home. And so when you show that you are care and you're willing to help work through that, they will do the work to learn what they need to learn. So that's kind of how we've done it in Colorado, and it seems, to be working. So I would encourage others to try that as well.
And Dawn, do you want to talk a little bit about a little bit more about some of those supports that the University of Washington gives students? And I believe there is a summer aspect to the program that I don't think I mentioned in the story. It was a lot to write about, but tell me a little bit more about that.
So this year actually was the first year that we were able to offer the summer bridge, and only the second year in the program we've really noticed a difference in how students are working together and forming friendships, and just that 1 week before school starting has really set the ground and let them get to know each other before jumping into the academics and the pressures that come along with academics. So that has definitely helped. We also have students cohorted in classes. As you know, the math class, they're cohorted into a chemistry class, as well as they are split between communications and English, but they are working closely together. We also really make a point of connecting them with advisors in engineering departments, advisors in the Career Center, getting them starting to get to know faculty and starting to get to know about undergraduate research. And so there are a lot of advantages to be able to have a cohort of students that you can really impact. And wouldn't it be great if we could expand this multiple times over to do the same for all low-income students, all students coming from underserved high schools?
That was one of the things that I liked so much about the story. Is as I was writing it, I was thinking about how this idea of redshirting students who come from different high schools, if you could do that with some other programs too, it just seems like there's a lot of promise there.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I actually like the idea of really fixing our public education pipeline so that universities don't have to pick up the slack like this. I mean, it's great for the universities that can do it, but it's a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid because how often are you going to be able to do this, or how much larger can you make your program? And really think about, the fight is really around preparing the K through 12. When affirmative action first came, decades ago, it was all about getting people in college and getting people in jobs, and nobody did anything about K-12. And here we are with the same problem with the renewal years ago of affirmative action. We still are dealing with the issue of not preparing K through 12 students. So universities are doing what they need to do to get in the students that they need, and here we are still messing around with K-12 and not doing anything about it. So we have to change, and I agree with Tanya that, a lot of that is about how the adults, not just the teachers, but how the adults in the education system are behaving, and it has nothing to do with students.
You're absolutely right.
That's
You're absolutely right. And Trish, I say that because, for me, it's hard to watch students who don't know, right, who are not prepared because of just their circumstances. I was a first generation student. I grew up in Louisiana, rural Louisiana, very poor. I'm one of 15 children. Neither of my parents are high school educated, but they grew up in that movement and, you know,
Right.
fighting for me to have the right to go to school. And so my brothers and sisters, we went. So we had people fighting for us. And so I look at Gold Shirt as a way to fight for students because it's going to take a while to, I think, rehabilitate the K-12 system on a broad scale. And universities, I don't want to wait around for that. And
Right.
so whatever I can do in this role to help students, and, you know, I'm the Engineering Gold Shirt Program Director, but any student that comes to see me, I help. And I think
Right.
everyone here in the Bowl Center and, you know, across campus, you know, we have to have that attitude because I think what's happening as K-12 is, well, I teach ninth grade and they're at a fifth grade level and whatever, and, you know, that wasn't my job. It is our job.
Yep. Yep. Mhm.
Those are great points. I love the idea of it as a Band-Aid and something that one day perhaps will not need, or, you know, need to have programs like this. Courtney, did you want to add anything to what everyone's been saying about the importance of the relationship building and how that was valuable to you in that first year? It sounds like you missed the summer bridge program because you were that first year cohort, but how important was the relationship building for you?
Yeah, absolutely. This was probably one of the most important things that the STARS program gave to me is the relationships of the stars around me. Yeah, like Dawn said, we didn't have the bridge program last year, so it took us a while to kind of get comfortable with each other. But once we did, it was definitely very, very helpful. We studied together, we went to class together, we talked together, we were friends and family as well. And it's so nice to have a group of people that are like-minded, came from similar backgrounds, and are doing the same thing so that we can help each other build those teamwork skills, and also to not only help each other academically, but with our personal problems. You know, we like I said, we come from similar backgrounds, so we have the same struggles with financial aid and just being away from home. And definitely coming from Vancouver, even though it's supposedly the fourth largest city in Washington, it's not all that big. And coming to the University of Washington from a small high school with only, I think my graduating class was 200 students, it was definitely a big jump. And having those people around me right from the start to get to know just familiar faces is definitely useful. And now, even after the program's over, we still study together. We still hang out all the time, and it's been really great. I'm so glad that I had the chance to meet these people. And also, since I work so closely with this New Year's students, I can definitely see a difference of the bridge program. That like the first day of class, they were already friends and comfortable with each other, and I was kind of jealous, you know, because like I can definitely tell that the dynamic is definitely different, and I think that the bridge program is really great. The bridge week, yeah.
Yeah, I do just want to add one more point that Courtney brought up, and really the fact that the students have each other is the main point, because they come in, they're coming from high schools, they're getting 4.0s in their schools, they're graduating top of their class in math and science and top of their class, and they come to the UW, and I think most students expect that they're going to find the same thing. So when they don't, when they do fail, when they do struggle, the community is there to help them realize it's not just me. I am not intelligent. You know, I can do this, and the group helps everyone realize that and get through it together. So what works is work, and that's what we teach, and that's what is success.
Tanya, do you want to add anything to that from the Colorado perspective?
Yeah, I think, you know, Dawn and, I'm sorry, what's your name, the student?
Courtney.
Courtney, thank you so much. I think your input is really valuable to hear from the person, you know, person who's had the experience of what we're trying to create. And I see the same thing here, is that, you know, one of the things we do intentionally is we know the first round of exams is coming. So I schedule Dr. Jackie Sullivan, who is actually one of the founders of the Go Share program here. I schedule her to come into my class where I teach self-management and leadership principles to teach them the brain rules. Because we can tell the students to study this way, to do this and do that, work in groups, and don't wait till the last minute to cram. But it's not until they go through that first exam and they see the big fat D or F that they get, we kind of wake them up. Courtney, am I on point here?
Yes, absolutely. It definitely took the first midterm to.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my gosh, and so we kind of have their attention. And then so we go through this process again of here's the things that you need to be doing. These are the things that you need to do in order to be prepared for your next round. And then we kind of see a rebound. We see the rebounding happening. We see them really taking their time management seriously and that kind of thing. And it is the peer support, because I've had students come to me and say, Professor Ennis, such and such is thinking about leaving engineering. Let's call them in. And they'll come in with that student. And then we're all in here psyching everybody up, and so that's the beauty, because I have over 100 students in the program now here at CU Boulder, and I don't always talk to them every day. So it's that collaboration among the students that they kind of jump in and support and give that encouragement to one another. And yeah, I think I'm just hearing what's going on at the University of Washington, and I'm so proud, because I know we spent almost 2 days last year talking about your program, and it's just wonderful to hear. I sent the email of the article that you wrote in the Seattle Times. I sent it to my students, and I've gotten students coming back and saying, wow, the work you're doing is great. And I'm like, no, the work you're doing is great. Because what you're doing is what these other students get the benefit of. And so you can't beat the team environment. You can't beat the family that you create in this. And so even if they come to us prepared, Trish, and I know we want to work on K-12, I still think all students could use a smaller group of students that they're cohorted with in college to help them through the years that they're here in undergrad.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's even more important at college, even though they're a little more grown, or think they're grown anyway, and they're advanced in their education, they're away from home, and they need to have that family, so it's really important to carry that all the way through until they leave you, and then at some point they'll come back. And Courtney, I hope you come back when you graduate UW. I hope you come back and support the program there, and I hope you actually go to your high school as well, because this kind of stuff continues when one generation reaches back to help the one coming up behind. The rest of us, I'll speak for myself, we're getting a little old, a little long in the tooth. We need you to carry the torch here for everybody else and just keep it going.
Absolutely, that's definitely one of my goals.
Good, good.
I think we're almost out of time here. I'm looking at Caitlin. It looks like we're just got 1 or 2 minutes left. Doesn't anybody have any final words, anything they'd like to mention that we haven't covered in this chat or in this story?
Well, I'd just like to thank you for writing the story, Catherine. It was really well written, and I appreciate it. What I would like for everybody to think about, especially those of us in higher ed, is what can we do to support the lack of prep, to change the lack of preparation for all the students that we're getting who need this additional help. Let's level the playing field. Let's make sure that everybody's prepared, because our country really needs that.
I think one of the things that is happening here in Washington State is that it's always been higher ed and K-12 as separate units in our government, and they're starting to come together to look at what happens K through 20, not just programmatically but funding-wise, and making sure that there's some continuation of programming, actually pre-K through 20, to make sure that there's an alignment, not just programmatically, but asking for funding and coming in together instead of everybody fighting for that small little pie. So I think that's going to help, at least with resources. But I think that we really need a change in belief and behavior at the K-12 level, because even if higher ed comes down to support, you guys aren't there every day, right? And that belief and behavior of all the adults on the campus, all the adults in the system, the K-12 system, needs to be raised and needs to change so that we can feed higher ed kids that are really ready.
I'd just like to build on what Trish said and invite every teacher and student in Washington State to come to our free events. We have Engineering Discovery Days in April 24th and 25th this year. That's a 2-day event where we open our doors and show students and teachers what engineering is. So that's definitely a wonderful event that everyone should plan on. We also have a wonderful program to prepare students for math, and that's called the Mathematics Academy. It's a 4-week residential program. Students live on campus. It's free for students. So all high school juniors interested in studying engineering should plan on applying to that. And then just this coming Saturday, December 5th, I believe, or December 6th, from 1 to 5 at the Computer Science and Engineering Building at the University of Washington is an open house. So you can find that online. It's an event you RSVP to. There are still spaces available, so students and teachers should should come to that. That's absolutely an open door, free event for people.
All right. I think that'll do it. I think we'll, thanks so much to everyone for participating, from coming from around the state and from the STEM program over there at Microsoft, and especially to Tanya beaming in from Colorado. It's great to see you. It's great to
Notice that we're purple for UW today.
Yay! Thank you.
Great to meet you all.
All right.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks so much.